You're probably familiar with using if for English grammar as a conditional, but what about these phrases? How well do you know these if alternatives for English conditionals? We're going to find out. I'm going to give you a quick test and then I'm going to teach you what all of these phrases mean and when you should use them. Here's question 1. Which doesn't make sense? Is it A or B? A, I don't expect you to cook dinner for me. If anything, I should cook it for you. B, I expect to cook dinner for you. If anything, I expect you to cook dinner for me. Which doesn't make sense? It is B that doesn't make sense. A does make sense. Now, why is that? It's to do with this phrase, if anything. Use if anything when the previous sentence is probably untrue, but if there is any possibility of it being true, something else would be better instead. And we can see that this fits sentence A, or the two sentences in sentence A, better. Let's read it closely. I don't expect you to cook dinner for me, so I'm not expecting this to be true. I'm not expecting you to cook dinner. But if there's any possibility of it being true, in other words, if anything, I should cook it for you. In other words, something else would be better instead. It would be better for me to cook it than you to cook it, even if it is true. So if anything works here, but it doesn't work in B, because B tries to say the same thing twice. I expect to cook dinner for you. If anything, I expect you to cook dinner for me. So we have two people expecting to cook dinner. It doesn't make sense. If anything, does not link these two sentences in the correct way. So it has to be A that makes sense and B that doesn't make sense. And these numbers you can see come from my 1000 English Grammar Rules PDF. This is rule 228. In the list, there's 1000 rules all on one PDF that all intermediate and advanced English speakers need to know in order to be proficient, advanced, native-like with your English. So if you haven't got this PDF yet, click in the link in the description below this video, get it, and it will help you to follow this video because the rules that I display on the screen will match the rules on this 93-page PDF. Okay, here's question 2. Which word fills the gap? Is it were, had, or should? So we start with a gap. They do exercise. They will be able to run further. Which one fills the gap? Were, had, or should? Pause the video to think. Unpause it and I'll give you the answer. Here is the answer. The answer is should. Should they do exercise, they will be able to run further. Now, why is it should? It's because of these rules here. Were, subject, and to, first of all, is an alternative to the second conditional, instead of saying if and the past simple and would. The second conditional is for an unreal situation. However, this example here is real because doing exercise does lead to running further. It's completely real. Had plus the subject is an alternative to the third conditional, which replaces if and the past perfect and then a clause starting would have. We use this for situations in the past that perhaps we think about differently or we wish could have been different. But this is not a past situation, this is present. And this leads to should plus subject, which is an alternative to the first conditional. The first conditional gives a condition which is present or future and then leads to a consequence or outcome afterwards. And this fits perfectly. Should they do exercise? Well, that would be in the present or the future. Then there would be an outcome. They will be able to run further. It matches the first conditional form. And this is a type of what we call inversion, where we alter the order of words in a sentence. Normally, if I, or if you, or if he, if she, if it, followed by the verb. We have if, subject, verb, usually. But in this case, we invert it. So we have the auxiliary verb coming first. Were, had, or should, and then the subject. So part of the verb phrase goes to the beginning. It's a form of inversion with the conditionals. Let's move on to question 3. Choose the correct alternative in A and B. A, it's too hot if only it would rain or hadn't rained. Which alternative is correct? The blue or the red? B, it rained yesterday. If only it would rain, hadn't rained. Think about it. Pause the video if you need to, and then I'll give you the answer. Here comes the answers. The answers are that in the first one, A, it's too hot if only it would rain. And in B, it rained yesterday if only it hadn't rained. So, why did we choose those particular alternatives? Let's go through the rules of if only, followed by certain tenses. Let's begin with A. It's too hot if only it would rain. Well, that matches the if only in the middle, if only plus would. And this is a desire for something to be different in the future. So, it's too hot now. Do you hope it would rain now? Well, actually, rain would probably come after now because it's very hot. There's no possibility of rain right now, but maybe in a minute, maybe in 10 minutes, maybe in an hour. If only it would rain soon. So would usually refers to something that is just after now or a little bit further after now, after if only. If only it would rain is looking forward to the future where maybe it will be different. If only and then would. B, it rained yesterday. If only it would rain or hadn't rained. Well, we chose if only it hadn't rained. Let's look at if only with the past perfect, because hadn't rained is a past perfect form. This is for a desire to be something different about the past. It rained yesterday and I wasn't happy with it. I wanted something different to be true. If only it hadn't rained. So that's if only with would, if only with past perfect. The last one is if only with the past tense. And this was a desire for something to be different in the present or the future. So I could have said it's too hot if only it rained now. Or probably what would make more sense, because rain is an activity, if only it were raining. So if I said if only it were raining, then I'd probably be referring to how I wish things were different now. If only it were raining now. If only it would rain is after now. Now, there are some occasions where if only and the past tense can mean future, but if I say if only it were raining, then I'm referring to the present, not the future, and that's why in this case it needed to be if only it would rain, if we want to talk about the future. Okay, question 4. Which is correct this time, A or B? So we're thinking about the grammar. Which one is grammatically correct? A, imagine if everyone was good, there would be no crime. B, imagine if everyone was good, comma, there would be no crime. A or B? Decide now. Which one? Pause the video if you need more time. Here's the answer. The second one is wrong and the first one is correct. A is correct. Now, why is that? Let's read through the explanation. And we're looking at supposing and imagine here. These both are words that can introduce conditions as ideas, with the outcome being in the next clause. So imagine if everyone was good. Here's an idea. Everyone is good. This is just an idea I have. It's not something real. It's just an idea. The outcome is this: there would be no crime. So it's a kind of second conditional form. We're thinking about something that's not true or unreal and imagining if it was real. And we can use this instead of if in certain structures. But there's a small difference between supposing and imagine. Now, supposing, if I use that instead of imagine, that can be followed by a clause or a new sentence. So I could have said, supposing everyone was good, comma, there would be no crime. That would also be correct. And I could have said, supposing everyone was good, full stop, there would be no crime. And I could say supposing if or just supposing on its own as well. Now, imagine is the same. I can have if afterwards or I can have it on its own. But imagine can only be followed by a new sentence. And therefore, B was wrong because we cannot attach the second clause in the same way as we do in an if sentence. Number 5. Which of these phrases could fill the gap? On condition that, provided that, or so long as. So here's the gap. You apply for a ticket before tomorrow, you should get one. Which phrases could fill the gap? Think about it, pause the video if you need to, and then unpause it for the answer. And here's the answer. The answer is all options are possible this time. I could have said, on condition that you apply for a ticket. I could have said, provided that you apply for a ticket. Or so long as you apply for a ticket. All of them were possible this time because they all introduce a necessary condition to achieve the outcome. Very slight differences between them. On condition that and provided that are a little bit more official sounding than so long as. So long as feels a bit more free. If you say on condition that or provided that, then you're setting more of a barrier in the way. It sounds more like you can't do this. But if you have this in place on condition, then it's possible. Without the condition or without the provided that, it's not possible. There's more of an emphasis on the barrier to the outcome. But so long as there's more of a freedom towards the outcome. Yeah, it turns it the other way around. It says, yes, this is possible. Just make sure this happens. So there's a difference in emphasis there. Also, on condition that means this is necessary, provided that, or so long as, they can also mean this is necessary, but there's more emphasis on, well, if this is true, the next clause is possible. These are very small differences, but worth knowing when you're making a decision between them. Here's number 6. Which sentence refers to a real situation here? Read it carefully. Think about it. A, if I were you, I would wear something different. B, if there were more clothes in my wardrobe, I would get changed. One of them refers to a real situation. Which one? Think. Pause the video now. Unpause when you're sure of your answer. Here comes the answer. The answer is that A refers to a real situation. How can that be? It's second conditional. If I were you, I would wear something different. I have been told all my life the second conditional is for unreal situations. Well, this one is real, and this is why. Let's read below. If I were you is often used to give advice about a real situation in a more polite way. So if you know your grammar and you know the impact of moving from present time to the past time, creating distance in time, and moving from a real word to an unreal word, so from something will perhaps to would, creating distance in reality. When you create distance with your words, then you make things more polite because of what I have written next. Instead of being direct, so for example, I could have said, you should wear something different. That would be more direct. Instead of being direct, this enables the speakers to be indirect. And they do that by referring to themselves. When you say you should, it puts the person listening under pressure. If you say I would, it creates the same feeling, but it puts the listener under less pressure because you're direct to get back at yourself, not straight at them. It makes it more indirect, therefore it's more polite because it's less pressurizing. So it's a completely real situation. It's very, very common in English to use if I were you, I would, in order to give advice to someone about something real. B does not involve advice, but it does use if, past simple and would, and because it doesn't involve advice, then B really is an unreal hypothetical situation. Okay, 7, spot the mistake here. A, I don't know the way, what should I do? B, unless you follow the signs, you won't get lost. What's the mistake? You have to read A and B carefully and think about the meaning. Think about it now. What is wrong because of the meaning? Pause the video if you need time. Unpause it when you're ready with your answer. Here comes the answer. The answer is unless is wrong or won't is wrong. One of those two needs to change. Let me explain. Unless means this must happen to avoid the stated outcome, which doesn't make sense here because unless you follow the signs, you won't get lost. Well, normally, if you follow the signs, you don't avoid that outcome. You get that outcome. You won't get lost. The conditional will actually be true. You follow the signs, you won't get lost. That will be true. But unless turns it around because it says we're not looking for the truth of this outcome. We're looking to avoid the outcome. Here, I've corrected it for you. Unless you follow the signs, you will get lost. This must happen to avoid getting lost. And finally, here's question 8. In the sentence below, what does even if mean? Even if someone offered me all the money in the world, I would not move home. Does even if mean introduce a conclusion, that's A, or B, introduce something that won't enable the outcome to be fulfilled? We might expect that it would, though. Or C, even if means the same as unless. Is it A, B, or C? Stop, think, pause the video if you need to, unpause it for the answer. And here comes the answer. The answer is B, even if introduces something that won't enable the outcome to be fulfilled. We might expect that it would. So even if someone offered me all the money in the world, someone offers you all the money in the world, you might expect that that person could move home because they'll have more money to move, have a bigger house. But even if tells us that the outcome will not be fulfilled, I would not move home. This could be true. I still wouldn't do it. So even if gives that meaning. And to get all of the 1000 English grammar rules, as I mentioned on this PDF straight away, go to my website, englishwithrupert.com. The link's in the description below this video. Go there to get this PDF so you have access to all 1000 rules and you can make sure your grammar gets to an intermediate, advanced, expert level.